And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. We're brought to you by our friends over at BIRCH Gold as you're watching the Federal Reserve and the Trump administration go to war as we speak. Another reminder to make sure to take advantage of all the opportunities you can to secure your retirement and savings. Have as much control over it as you possibly can, and you can do so by considering the diversification with gold through BIRCH Gold Group. For decades, gold has been used as a safe haven for times such as these. If you've got an IRA or 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep in your safe. But first, get educated. All right. BIRCH Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. No obligation, just information. Just text my name, Steve, to the number 989898. Again, text Steve to 989898 and consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. That way, if the Fed can't stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead of the curve for yourself. All right, coming up on today's show, Daniel Horowitz will be joining us later in the program. He returns from vacation. Apparently, even he takes one of those. We, of course, will play buy, sell, or hold, likely beginning at the bottom of this hour. But let's begin, as we always do, with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by a big thank you to FBI Director Kash Patel and Senator Chuck Grassley. We've been able to confirm what the former posted late last week, that they have indeed reached settlements with FBI whistleblowers ranging from back pay to out-and-out reinstatement. It's a huge relief not only for the whistleblower community, including friend of the show, Steve Friend, who is an outstanding man, but also to future whistleblowers, as we were on the precipice of setting an ugly precedent for attempts at government accountability in the future. Thank you again to FBI Director Kash Patel and Judiciary Chairman Senator Chuck Grassley. Tragedy this morning at Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis as a gunman fired upon a group of students at the church's K-8 school. Situation is unfolding at this time, and there are no definitive reports yet on the number of those killed or injured, but it was labeled a mass casualty event. Pray for the victims, their families, and others involved. In other news, President Trump held a 3.5-hour cabinet meeting yesterday, and on the topic of tariffs, he says he's intrigued with the prospect of sending Americans a piece of the pie.
I mean, there's a concept of making you could call it a dividend, as we would say, making a dividend to the people in this country who have had to suffer through stupid leadership. And they paid a lot of taxes, and they got nothing for it. No, there's a possibility. Primarily, we want to pay down debt, but there's a possibility that we take a piece of it and make a dividend.
Trump also brought up Operation Warp Speed again.
People say it's one of the greatest achievements ever in politics or in the military, because it was almost a military procedure. But everybody, including Putin, said that Operation Warp Speed, what you did with that, nobody can believe it.
The latest example of Democrats absolutely cleaning the clocks of Republicans in special and off-year elections unfolded in our home state of Iowa last night. During a special election for Iowa Senate, the Democrat candidate won by 9 points in a district largely represented by a county President Trump won by 23 points back in 2024. It's also the area of Iowa where would-be gubernatorial candidate Randy Feenstra hails from. Total victory for those up in arms, rightfully so, about the Cracker Barrel rebrand. The company announced yesterday evening they're ditching the rebrand and sticking with the old logo. It appears Chip and Joanna Gaines are dropping all pretext and going full bore into proto-deconstruction. Maybe I should say that in English. They're more cowards than they are Christians. They faced blowback, of course, in July after they featured a so-called homo couple on their HBO show. And it's being exposed now that they're executive producers on a show called Roller Jam, which is hosted by a Rainbow Jihad activist and features a team of all Rainbow Jihadist roller skaters. Apparently, that's a genre. According to a report at the New York Times, the Gates Foundation, that would be Bill Gates, is ceasing funding for nonprofits administered by the Marxist consulting firm Arabella Advisors. Arabella Advisors has been characterized for years now, going on 2 decades actually, as the main siphon for left-wing dark money exploits in politics. And now Bill Gates is backing away funding, reportedly. And finally, Secretary of State Marco Rubio explained during yesterday's cabinet meeting why he's looking so forward to this year's Labor Day holiday.
You were elected as the president of working Americans, and that's why this Labor Day is so meaningful. For me personally, this is the most meaningful Labor Day of my life as someone with 4 jobs. And so
Rubio wasn't done with the jokes.
This thing about people getting married on Saturdays during college football season is a scourge, Mr. President. It's dividing families. I don't know if we can have an executive order on this. It's insane, but it's really difficult. There's 7 other months of the year that people can get married, so I just wanted to say that.
And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's montage brought to you by our friends over at Miracle Made. And these sheets, they're some of my faves, particularly now with the change of seasons. It was 80 degrees during the day here in Iowa. We woke up, it was 55 degrees overnight, right? So the change of the seasons in particular, the temperature regulating properties give you the better quality of sleep. The silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA that make sure you sleep at the right temperature all night long. It's one of the things I love about them, as well as the self-cleaning properties. About 99.7% of bacterial growth is prevented with that exact same silver-infused fabric. And then let's also point out they're very comfy. Comfort, quality, designed for your skin. It's just a great night's sleep. I miss them when I'm on the road. I indulge when I am at home. And one of the best things I can say about any of our partners is when I go out of pocket, my own expense, to buy even more of their product. And I've done that before, including, again, just recently with Miracle Made. All right, so you can try them right now and get to over 40% off at trymiracle.com/Deace. That's trymiracle.com/Deace. If you use the promo code Deace at checkout, you'll get a free 3-piece towel set, and you'll save an extra 20% as well. And Miracle is so confident in their product, they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. You won't need it, though. You're going to love them. All right, so go to trymiracle.com/Deace. Use the code Deace for the big savings and the free 3-piece towel set. That's trymiracle.com/Deace. Use the code Deace for our friends at Miracle Made. There is ongoing updates on the shooting at the Catholic Church there in Minneapolis. A press conference is happening right now as we speak. 2 children, you said, Aaron, are confirmed dead.
Yes.
Have they confirmed any motivations yet for the shooter in this case?
No. Male in his early 20s.
Male in his early 20s. All right. So we will keep you abreast of that tragedy as details unfold, and we may have more to say on it later as details are confirmed or not. Let's go to the rest of Aaron's montage, and let me start here. First and foremost, Steve Friend and Garrett Boyle and the rest of these whistleblowers are American heroes, and they literally stood up against the Stasi and risked their own careers, livelihoods, maybe even their own freedoms to do so. And yes, we can sit here and say today, this is overdue. But the best thing you can do when you've got a deficit, you can't go back and undo the fact it took you how long to do something about it. You can do something about it today, and something was done about it today. So first and foremost, thank you to Steve Friend and the rest of those whistleblowers for setting an example for the men of America with your courage, your heroism, the full reinstatements as well. I was chatting with Steve last night about where he would like to be reassigned. I don't think it's my place to say in public where that is, but it would make sense. I'll just tell you this. If I could tell you, and I said on the air what it was, I think I did share it with you guys, right? It would make sense what he is interested in pursuing in his restarted career. I do want to thank Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, and Senator Charles Grassley, our senator here from the state of Iowa. This would not have happened without the two of them, and they did make it happen. So they deserve a debt of gratitude for that, and they went the extra mile. We weren't even necessarily asking for a full reinstatement, but at least something that maybe gave them their back pay, gave them some kind of, federal version, FBI version of an honorable discharge, so they could maybe pursue jobs in local law enforcement. Instead, they went the extra mile and had them fully restored. So thank you to both Senator Grassley and FBI Director Kash Patel for that. And given how loud we have been in complaining about this for the last couple of months on the show, I thought we needed to begin the program today and be effusive in our praise for finally getting this done. And it's not an excuse It's not. I'm not into excuses. I will say, though, now that the deed is done, I did have someone who works in a major cabinet agency of the Trump administration, I guess is what I'll say. And that called me for help with something a couple weeks ago. Separate from this matter, by the way, separate from this matter. But another major cabinet agency in the Trump administration. And they called me even on a Sunday asking for help with something. And I'm like, hey, I'm happy to help. But why call me on a Sunday? This is one of the largest, cabinet agencies, departments on this continent in the United States federal government. And this person said to me, half of the staff I've inherited is still wearing masks. And we got rid of, they were all wearing masks when we took over. We got rid of half of those people. But the other half, and the ones that I need for this, it was a messaging media issue. So of course that's right in my wheelhouse. And they said that's the half of the mask wearers throughout this department we haven't gotten rid of yet. So I don't think that's a reason that it took 7 months to do this. But I also think we should it does help us to be aware of how infiltrated much of our government remains. All right, 7 months should not have taken that long, but I think also the idea that this stuff was going to be done in 7 minutes or 7 weeks also may not have been realistic either. Here's all that matters. It was done. And it was done by the end of the year with people having Christmas and families and what are we going to do? And so thank you to Kash Patel and thank you to Senator Grassley for making it so. You guys want to add anything to that at all? Is that sufficient?
All it took was a little push. That's all I'll say.
Yep. Just underscore, thank you. It's
you.
Deserved.
Yes.
Next time somebody tells you, we'd prefer you weren't so annoying, look at the scoreboard. All right? Look at the scoreboard.
And the scoreboard says thank you to Kash Patel and Senator Grassley. So
Amen.
Thank you. Yes. Now, let's come back to our neck of the woods for another story that I don't think is getting enough play. And we need a wake-up call here. All right? Because it's not an isolated incident. One of the key things I was concerned about heading into this last election cycle, we are seeing this trend line now continue. We underperformed in the 2022 midterms. Remember, I showed up, man, with the Tiger Woods red shirt, the bucket of corn for those midterms. We were going to have not just a red wave, but I proclaimed it to be a red wedding, right? So that is not on my scoreboard of things I was right about or helped with. I was completely wrong on that one. Okay.
As was I.
Yeah. I mean, mistakes were made. We nearly had an internecine fist fight. All right. Glenn nearly had me sent to a camp. It was just a tough night. It was just a really tough night here on election night 2022 because the results were underwhelming to say the least. And then this trend line continued where we were just getting defeated. I mean, we were one of the few shows following this. Special election after special election after special election, we were losing them all over the country. Didn't matter red state, blue state. Didn't matter the state of play. We were losing them. The one I remember we won is we pulled one out in New Hampshire the night of the New Hampshire presidential primary because we had an active primary, I guess. I mean, Trump was in the middle of defeating Nikki Haley about 30 points, one more time. Okay. I think by then DeSantis had actually already dropped out. So we technically had a contested primary, which did energize our people more than them. But that was it. And we stopped following this last June because by that point we were kind of into the general election now. But from what I recall, and tell me guys if these numbers sound right to you, I want to say that as we were following this on the show throughout 23 and 24, what we found is that Democrats were overperforming either the polling or the partisan makeup of that election demographic by roughly on average 9 points across the country. Does that number sound right to you guys?
It does.
Okay. Well, Last night we had a special election for a state Senate seat here in the state of Iowa. And in a part of Iowa that nothing is blue. And there hasn't been actually for quite some time. Even when we were a purple state, there was no blue here in western Iowa. This is the most densely Republican part of the state of Iowa.
This is Bob Vanderplaat's country, right?
It is. I mean, absolutely.
Just south of Sioux City.
Yes. Woodbury County is one of our versions of an urban county. Sioux City is located there. It's really the only red urban, in quotation marks, because Iowa's a largely rural state. It's really the only red rural county. All the rest of the urban county. All of the West Main urban counties, Polk County where Des Moines is, Lynn County where Cedar Rapids is, Johnson County where Iowa City is, and Blackhawk County where Waterloo is. Those are the rest of the other biggest cities in the state. Those are all blue. And then there's Woodbury County right there in the heart of God's country in western Iowa. Trump won Woodbury County during the 2024 presidential election by a margin of 60-37, 23 points. Much of the state Senate special election, all 21 precincts are in Woodbury County. So it's not the entire county, but all of the 21 or 22 precincts are all in Woodbury County. A county Trump won by 23 points just last November. And we had a special election here last night, and the Democrats won it by 9 points. That is roughly a 30-point swing, depending on how many of the precincts showed up in this or not, compared to 24. Here's the other thing you need to know, because I have no problem, again, if you're new to our show, I got the entire Blaze channel demonetized by Facebook the day after the election for calling out all the voter fraud that I saw happening live in real time on our election night coverage. All right. So we've never shied away from that issue. Now, I don't follow crazy train stories either. Okay. But it's not an issue. We're not one of the shows that doesn't talk about it because the algorithm hates it. All right. Reason number one, YouTube will not let me have a channel that matters, is COVID. Reason number two is the election fraud issue. And I'm one of the few that combine both of them together. So it's a miracle that we actually are making money on this show without anything from YouTube whatsoever, yet somehow we are, by God's grace. That all being said, Democrats have no control of the local election machinery in any of these areas of Iowa. There aren't even blue precincts in this part of Iowa. They just don't even exist. They don't control any of the electioneering process at all. They cannot ballot harvest in western Iowa. First of all, you can't ballot harvest in Iowa, period, with how we've changed the laws around here. But I think we also know that there's probably some things going on in Polk and Blackhawk County where Democrats are largely operating under, if they don't know it, won't hurt them kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Not in this part of Iowa. Not happening. I mean, there are boomers about to filling out their wills and testaments. They cannot remember seeing a Democrat win in their community in their entire lifetimes. So we control all of the machinery. We have a massive demographic advantage. And Democrats won this special election pretty resoundingly. Now, if it's just a one-off, guy died, unfortunately, in the middle of a cycle, the governor, people still, I think, haven't set in that Kim's not going to run again. All right. We have overwhelming majorities all over the state, resting on your laurels. They caught us with our pants down. I wouldn't make a big deal out of it, except it's the exact same thing we saw during 2023 and 2024. Exact same thing we saw until we got to the general election. And our people, what we're seeing from our people all over the country is a couple of phenomenons. On a meta level, if Donald Trump is not on the ballot, our people are not showing up. Which brings me to number two, with limited exceptions. If there is a standard bearer on the ballot who has proven themselves worthy to voters so that they have developed their own brand, Ron DeSantis in Florida, Kim Reynolds here in Iowa, to some degree, a Brian Kemp in Georgia. These are people that have their own brand independent of Trump because of their own relationship with their voters. You could certainly make a case Ron DeSantis is never governor of Florida without Donald Trump. In fact, I said that even during the primary when they were competing against each other, 2 years ago. That's completely likely. DeSantis likely does not even win that primary that first time without Trump's endorsement. Kim probably never becomes governor without Trump. Because you had Terry Branstad there, her boss, governor for life, and she got appointed to ambassador to China, and that elevated Kim. Maybe she runs, maybe Branstad retires in 2 years and she runs on her own. We'll never know. But at the very least, we have to say Trump played some role in both the elections of Kim Reynolds, or the elevations maybe is a better way of putting it, of Kim Reynolds and Ron DeSantis. He played no role whatsoever with Brian Kemp that I can remember. And at times, frankly, Kemp has been at odds with Trump. And I think Trump's been angry with Kemp for a lot of the right reasons. But short of those limited examples where people have proven themselves, we are struggling to get our people to show up. The one exception to this is Glenn Youngkin in 21 in the off-year election in Virginia. And remember, they wanted Trump, they asked Trump to stay out of that race because they were concerned that Trump's stock with suburban voters in that state was going to hurt them. So he did, and they won. But now we're sitting here, and there's another, they have a term limit thing. You can only serve one term at a time as governor of Virginia. So now Winsome Sears, who we all love and adore, but there's not a lot of polling out there showing that she's, competitive in this race whatsoever yet as the 25 nominee out there. So if Trump's not on the ballot, our people don't show up. That's number one. Number two, with very limited exception, if there's a proven entity on the ballot that has developed enough of their own brand, which tells you the Republican Party brand in and of itself is not good with its own voters. The quality of our candidates has never been more important than it is right now. Aaron mentioned in his montage, this is Congressman Randy Feenstra's district. Many of you don't know who he is, and there's no reason for you to. He's done nothing in Congress. Absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. Despite the fact he represents one of the reddest congressional districts in America, he's done jack and squat. He's just nothing other than a symbol of milquetoast corporatists. He wasn't there for his own people when their land was being taken away. That's why he got 40% against him in his last congressional primary by an absolute nobody with no money. People just knew his name wasn't Randy Feenstra. He didn't show up at the Faith and Freedom Coalition event. He's been running for governor since the day after Kim dropped out. He didn't show up and talk to the Faith and Freedom group in Iowa. Didn't show up and talk to the way bigger Family Leadership Summit. He's been nowhere to be found. This is in his backyard. He's been running for governor for 3 months. Where's he been? Nobody knows. The era of just running these kinds of milquetoast corporatist candidates, we just can't return to that. Even if we want to, even if we desire to, it can't win. It just won't work. Aaron hasn't told this story in a while, but he used to tell the story about the first puppy that he had. And it killed a rabbit or something in your yard, Aaron, from what I recall?
I killed a deer, and it gorged itself on the deer.
That's right.
And nearly died, but after it recovered, it had that taste for blood, and it was never the same.
Correct. So we can all sit here and debate how far Trump goes in delivering on his rhetoric and branding. And a couple of months ago, I was very happy about how far we were going in delivering. Right now, I'm not as happy about how far we're going in delivering. All right. But the good thing about Trump is it's kind of like the weather. Everything's a negotiation. If you don't like it, hang out for a little bit. You might, if you press on him enough and let him know that's not the content we want, that's not the product we want, he has a tendency to listen to you and give you eventually the product that you want. More times than not. Not all the time, but more times than not. But people have had a taste now that we can draw blood from the opposition. We don't have to just sit here and be ashamed of who we are and what we believe. We don't have to let them dictate terms anymore. People have gotten a taste for it, like Aaron's first puppy. They got a taste for it. They're never going back. So much of the Republican Party does not want that to be the case, and is biding its time until Trump walks away, in the hopes that they can take back over and return this thing back to 2005. You ever notice their talking points have never left 2005? They want to go back there. And there's a Randy Feenstra in every state in America. I'm just going to tell you right now, if you want to see Democrats kick our butt, nominate candidates like that. Candidates that are ashamed of our base, won't eat the chicken sandwich, think Trump needs more polish. That's not going to work. And if they can do this to us, if they can catch us flat-footed and complacent, and with milquetoast candidates that don't excite anybody in Woodbury County, Iowa, folks, I am telling you, they can do it almost anywhere in the United States of America. Especially anywhere that's contested, they could do this to us. This should be a massive wake-up call. I've had 2 different reporters from the Blaze contact me this morning about this, which is good. We're one of the largest independent media outlets in America. This needs to be on our radar. Now, number one, we have a responsibility as citizens to wake the bleep up. Okay, that's number one. Self-government begins with self. We don't have an excuse, well, the candidates bore me. Well, I don't know. Does prison excite you? Does refugees, those get you fired up, do they?
A republic, if you can keep...
Exactly.
You take way too much crap, by the way, for talking about Trump as king. Thank goodness, because if this is the default... Correct. You either do the job or you do. You're on the hook, too, for Feenstra. I don't know anything about this candidate up there. I literally know nothing. But you either ignored a good candidate up there or you endorsed multiple bad candidates there. One of those is true, and they're both bad options.
So this begins with us. We don't have an excuse to get ambushed in our own backyards, especially places as fortified as Western Iowa. We don't have any excuse for that. So we got to own that. That's number one. Control what you can control. But number two, the Republican Party apparatus is going to have to do much better than this. The clock is ticking on the Trump era. You know, the idea that we may never see anything like him again, this harmonic convergence of celebrity and based ideology at the same time may never occur again in our lifetimes. And many of us have never seen anything like it in our lifetimes. Which means we're going to have to win in the dark. We're going to have to grind. We're going to have to go back to winning arguments again, not just my guy's louder, bigger, and tougher than yours. We're soft, okay? And we cannot be nominating soft candidates. And that is still what much of this party wants nominated. Much of this party wants to fulfill the proverb that the dog returns to its own vomit. Much of it does. We just simply cannot let them do that. We will lose our entire country if we do. Because if this can happen in Woodbury County, Iowa, it can happen virtually anywhere that there's a remotely contested race. So number one, we've got to wake up and do our job. Number two, we cannot let the party return us back to the pre-Trump era. Voters want excitement. They want disruption. They want to feel like something is shifting paradigms. Either way, whether it's Mamdani in New York or Trump in D.C. And I'm not drawing a moral equivalency between the two, but situationally, there is one. They want new things, disruptive things, not the same old, same old. Well, that's still what much of the Republican Party wants to provide is the same old, same old. And if we let them get away with it, we'll get the same old losses we were stacking up prior to Trump. I need you guys to make an executive decision. We go right to buy, sell, or hold when we come back, or what I have to say about Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Chip and Joanna.
All right, that decision is made.
Agreed.
Because I think there's a pattern here that needs to be understood and that we would stop falling for it over and over again. Okay? We'll get into that here in a moment. All right, folks, you're going to recognize this name because we have told you about them before. And we're thrilled to have back again this summer our friends over at Tiger Coolers. They are the real deal, 100% American-made, built for people who still believe in things like self-reliance, craftsmanship, and good old-fashioned freedom, tough, dependable, ready for anything, whether you're ranching, fishing, tailgating. That most wonderful time of the year is just around the corner. You know, Todd's looking forward to that and more. All right, you want to make sure that you take advantage of our friends over at Taiga Coolers. And it's not just that they make a great American-made cooler. That would be worthy enough of your business. But they go the extra mile with customization options as well. Basically, anything you want to do that doesn't violate the company's dignity or force them into a copyright lawsuit, they will do for you. All right, particularly this time of year. You're following your son around his senior year, varsity football. You're going to every game, right? Embarrass the heck out of him, put his number, his picture right there on the cooler, stuff like that. It's a great corporate gift as well if you're thinking ahead to the fourth quarter and what are some unique Christmas gifts that we could send out to clients and customers this year. This might be one of those things. So go to taigacoolers.com, T-A-I-G-A, that's T-A-I-G-A. taigacoolers.com and use the promo code Steve and you'll get 10% off when you do at taigacoolers.com. Use the promo code Steve for 10% off at taigacoolers.com. All right, there's one more thing I think that we need to address in the montage, and then we'll get to buy, sell, or hold at the top of next hour. And then what remains we will deal with in the overtime for our subscribers at blazetv.com/Deace. Go there, become a subscriber for a discount today. blazetv.com/Deace, promo code Deace. And you are watching Chip and Joanna Gaines now continue to descend into the abyss. Now, what I think will be fascinating about them is they have chosen, well, Chip in particular, tried to be a keyboard commando tough guy the last time they got exposed. And went about not just deconstructing his faith, but reconstructing it. And attempting to say, no, they actually represent the true light of Christianity. And that generated a way bigger level of backlash than what I've seen with others who have gone down this road, like, for example, Rhett and Link. They had the biggest show on YouTube just a few years ago. Just like these guys had, this couple had the biggest home remodel improvement show maybe in America. One of the most popular genres of television we have left. There's a pattern here. And you see this with certain contemporary Christian music singers who then get popular. And like Lauren Daigle, for example, cross over, same thing happens every time. And it's pretty much the same issue every time, which ought to give you a hint. But what you see is using us to gain an audience. And then once you gain a certain foothold of that audience and credibility with said audience, to the point now that you cross over as something that's known mainstream, Rhett and Link were on The Tonight Show more than once, for example. Once that crossover happens, then the offer is brought to you from the spirit of the age. Bow to the shibboleth of the damned, the rainbow jihad. And they pretty much all do. And they operate under the assumption, that's why what Chip Gaines did here by going to social media war. See, a lot of you don't even know about the Lauren Daigle thing because this is like the third time I brought it up and I get tons of emails every time. I had no idea, never heard this. Now, Chip decided that he was gonna bow up, become a tough guy, and come back at people online. He chose poorly, if you watched how that went. Chose very poorly. So I wonder if this will work for them. Because they chose not to just abandon their base or assume that their base would not know and just stay with them no matter what. They chose to punch back at their base. So we'll see if it works out for them or not. It's a bold choice, Cotton. Let's see if it works. But the pattern here is I use believers to gain a certain amount of credibility. to build a certain audience. In the political sense, we'd say a base. And then when prompted with the temptation of greater mainstream success, I betray that base for said recognition. And it's the same issue every single time. It's the same issue every single time. I mean, we have been fighting over abortion in this country for half a century. You cannot line up a group of people who got famous for being Christians and then sold us out later on the abortion issue like you can on the homos. I'm sure there's some. You guys will email them to me, I'm sure. But like, you couldn't have done this show in like 1996 or 1995 and said, well, another one bites the dust, got popular, and then, Planned Parenthood came along and they had to endorse the baby killing and they sold us out again. You just couldn't have done that. But you can do that show and then some on the Rainbow Jihad. Unrelated, but very related. There was a story going around yesterday quoting Natalie Winters, who's been on our show. It's been a few years. But she's what's the best way to describe her for those of you that don't know? She's essentially Steve Bannon's like top reporter, would you say?
I think that's exactly what she is.
All right. Just wanted to be as fair as I can. Okay. So she's Steve Bannon's top reporter, and there was a story going around from her yesterday about how many of her girlfriends were excited to take jobs in D.C. after the last election so they could come here, do good, work in MAGA, doing MAGA, doing good, but then also find a husband. A lot of great prospects, you thought. They thought wrong. They got here and they found out what I've been telling you for about a year. Almost every Republican worker in D.C. is gay among the guys. They're all gay. The level of infiltration here is overwhelming. I mean, this, and it's funny too, because the polling is all going negative on this. People are tired of it. We just talked about Snoop Dogg, of all people, noted hedonist. Made a career out of stoner hedonism. He's a grandpa now, and he doesn't want to take his grandson to a movie where Buzz Lightyear is his co-pilot, is married to another woman, and somehow they have a kid without a man. But yet the infiltration of this is deep in the culture. Some might use the term systemic. Maybe systematic, like a theology. Maybe. And there's a reason why in our era, this uniquely is the price that must be paid for greater success and significance. Your willingness to look the other way. This is the shibboleth of the damned of our era. All eras have them. The church fathers, it was often emperor worship. Homosexuality was rampant within the decadent, elitist cultures of the Greco-Roman world in which they were forced to mingle. But it wasn't considered the kneel before Zod zeitgeist like it is today. It would have been just flat out emperor worship. But see, this is a form of emperor worship too. Because, it's kind of always been emperor worship. Kind of always been choose ye this day. Manifestations of what that looks like are different. But the question remains the same. And this pattern happens over and over and over again. We elevate these people to faith. They seek more mainstream crossover acceptance. The cost of that is to kneel before Zod, to bow to the shibboleth of the damned. And in our era, that is the Rainbow Jihad. And invariably, like toy soldiers, almost all of them do. And then they either just act like it never happened. That'd kind of be Lauren Daigle. They just go full bore deconstructionist. like Red and Link, who now do kink videos, or they attempt to blaspheme the Holy Spirit, like what Chip Gaines was doing online a few weeks ago. This is all, by the way, very satanic, and I want to use that word on purpose. It is Satan who says to our Lord, "Bow to me, and I will give you the kingdoms of this world." And that is what he is saying to these individuals and others like them. And they have bowed. Our Lord did not. Now, lest we all think, though, that this only happens at a meta-elite level. Do you think the 10 whistleblowers who were restored yesterday were the only 10 patriots in all of the FBI who knew what was going on was wrong and recognized it? You think they're the only 10?
No.
No. I'm sure there were scores of others. But they bowed the knee. They didn't want to take the risk. Nothing happens in life that is worth your life out of comfort and complacency. Literally nothing does. I have a friend of mine who texted me this morning. And he just went through a rough time in his 30s and 40s. He's been in and out of incarceration, substance abuse. And now he thinks for real this time, truly surrendered his life over to the Lord. But now that the buzz from that, the initial buzz from that honeymoon, that Holy Spirit honeymoon is worn off. Now the hard work of living a completely different life than what he has known for many years has begun. And he said something to me this morning. He said, I really want to quit, but I won't. And I said back to him, now you're closer to where you want to be than ever before. Because, we get into these situations thinking the easy choice is the best. It's called a narrow road for a reason. But there's a way to do these things without confrontation or blowback or alienation or any form of suffering at all. And we know somewhere within the recesses of our cerebellums, we know that everything we are blessed to take for granted as people is because other people did not see life like that. We know this somewhere up here, but we don't feel this down here. And out of the heart, the mouth speaks. And we have to get used again. This kind of just ties right back to what I was saying about the special election last segment. We have to get used to again, that the best things that matter the most require the most risk, take the most difficulty, and will cause some form of suffering. We're not conditioned to think like that anymore. And folks, this is why more than anything else, we're this close to losing this whole thing right here. We're this close. We're this close. We're this close. Because we have convinced ourselves there's some third way to do this. That it doesn't have to be existential. That it doesn't have to be zero sum. That it don't have to be like those patriots, like those believers? And the answer is yes, you do. Or you end up becoming what you hate. The devil has no desire to share you any more than the Lord does, and he won't. Neither one of them are going to share. You're going to be a bondservant to one. Choose, which will it be? I highly doubt either Chip or Joanna Gaines will put on their tombstones at the end, produced a drag queen show that 2 million people watched per episode, or whatever the number turns out to be. I doubt they'll put that on their tombstones. But right now, they're making decisions in their life as if they're going to. And it will affect their status in the life to come, too. There is no accommodation with the things of this world on this level. There's what you can receive, there's what we must redeem, and then there's what we have to reject. We spend a lot of time, and most of the time in the church, arguing about what we're permitted to receive, what's truly neutral. I would argue, based on where things stand right now, we actually need to argue about what we first have to reject. We're not even clear on that right now. And Chip and Joanna Gaines are a great example of this. A tragic one, really. They're not just doubling down, they're tripling down. I think you should pray out of concern that maybe they've hardened their hearts now. Convinced that the Holy Spirit is making exceptions through them, when I can promise you that's not the case. And that's really not the case for any of us. And as long as we continue to think otherwise, the more likely it is we're going to lose this entire thing and be the generation that fails all the generations to come. More in a moment. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd Hers and Aaron McIntyre. And you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can subscribe to our new YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. Also, please, if you love the podcast version, you can subscribe, or on Apple iTunes, hit follow, and that'll make sure that every time we do a new episode, it is there in your podcast feed. And then also make sure to leave us a 5-star review if you like the show. Tens of thousands of you have. We appreciate all of you that have done so. Thank you for each and every one, and thank you if you're adding yours today. Thank you for that too. Thank you to our friends as well at Real Estate Agents I Trust in these unprecedented times.
Bing.
Make sure that if you're going back into a real estate market that has really not existed in America for 5 years, 6 years, fall of 2019 was the last time we had a robust real estate market between COVID, lockdowns, shutdowns, interest rates. It's still not, humming right now, but it's at least, we're at least clear. We're at least trying to wake it back up. So a lot's changed, though, since 2019. More important than ever to make sure you've got an agent that can guide you through all those changes to make sure that it's the most streamlined process, peace of mind process it can possibly be. Whether you're moving across state or across the country, we've got the agent for you, the kind of agent that you'll be recommending to others later. Get started, though, by going to realestateagentsitrust.com. Again, go to realestateagentsitrust.com. We do have some breaking news really quick here before we get to buy, sell, or hold. The identity of the Catholic mass shooter in Minneapolis has been identified. Robin Westman is his name. He is a tranny. posted a manifesto dressed up in makeup and pigtails online, including a video showing the words "Kill Donald Trump" written on his gun. So
in his manifesto, he had a sketch of what appears to be a church, and he had posted on social media target practice for like a gun with an iconography of Jesus Christ as the target.
So I don't think any of us are surprised. We probably thought this right away. I know the three of us did, but let's not be in a hurry to be wrong, especially when tragedy is afoot. But I mean, at this point, just assume these are all trannies. Just start with that. So many of them are. Just start with that. They're just demonically oppressed, possessed people. Just start there.
And how providentially perfect everything you just said about Chip and Joanna Gaines. Yet another.
This is what they're aiding and abetting, Frank.
Their love is love lecture.
Yes, this is what they're aiding and abetting.
While you just saw them slaughter children because of how much they hate God. This
cannot be tolerated. It should be completely banned, obliterated. These surgeries for anybody of in any age should not be permitted anywhere in America. They should all be against the law, under the strictest, most severe of criminal prosecutions for those who break it. There just should be no tolerance for this whatsoever. Instead, we are systematically aiding and abetting it, even at the same time that some of the best work the Trump administration has been on pushing back on this, as a matter of fact. But yet, there cannot be any accommodation for this. There just can't. This is just a level of evil. This is a level of lunacy at the same time that we just simply cannot be permitted to occur. We can't. All the evidence for it is there. And there's nothing compassionate about this at all. I mean, this is the equivalent of just handing kids Ouija boards and, hey, have a good game night. We are just literally opening demonic portals here. I just don't know how else to put it. I mean, we're just literally doing that.
Oh, on that front also, did you also see about that the New York Times today put out a story about Riley Gaines and how her whole movement is an exaggeration?
Again, this just can't be contemplated. It can't be accommodated at any level. Everything about it promotes lunacy. Lunacy. Evidenced by just what you just pointed out again. There's nothing about this that is remotely honest at all. That's not literally insane. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it just should not be permitted to see the light of day in our society. Period. Somehow, from there we'll go to buy, sell, or hold. Aaron has your submissions. Todd, you and I will decide whether we're going to buy it, we're going to sell it. And in light of what I just said, I don't have any Lindsey Graham left in me this week. So hold as many times as you want. Aaron, we may begin.
All right, we will begin with this from Chris Goebel, who says Trump's noise about 600,000 Chinese students or Chi-Coms is just another negotiating tactic that we shouldn't overreact to.
I like Chris, but I'm a hard sell. I can't read Donald Trump's mind. I don't know what's a negotiating tactic and what is not. And if it actually is just a negotiating tactic, well, what would we possibly get in return for importing what amounts to the 30th largest city in America for communists? What would we get in return? What number could we get? What would we get in return for 10,000? Do you know what it would be?
No.
50,000, 300,000, 250,000. What would we get in return? Not to mention if it's a negotiating tactic, Chris. I love you, brother, but the best talking point they have is if we don't do this, then the worst, scummiest of our university, of our scummy worst universities are going to close doors. We have to, it's a negotiating tactic, but the best talking point they rolled out with was Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, going on Laura Ingraham to say, hey, man, if we don't do this, we're going to lose 15% of our universities. What? I mean, it would seem if it's a negotiating tactic, we'd have way better talking points than that. If that's your best talking point and it's a negotiating tactic, you lost the negotiations. Number two, why would we need to negotiate with China about how many of their communist spies we're going to allow in the country? Wait a minute. I am reliably informed that because the Mossad may have spied on Americans, we're supposed to just let Islam run rampant throughout the country and log on to nickfuentes.com. Isn't that the argument? They're not a real ally. The Mossad does stuff we don't like. They're not the best allies we have. They're not our best friends. But then I'm supposed to just turn around and say to the Chi-Coms, sure, what number of Chinese spies do you need us to bring into the country to pull this thing off? I'm sorry. I don't see it at all. I don't. And I think I can't read anybody's minds. And I think when something this dumb, for lack of a better description, is proposed, I think we have to push back on it and should. That being said, love you, brother. But I just vehemently disagree.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. COVID, anyone? Like what? On the other end of that negotiation better be, Fauci was working with the Wuhan lab all along, and here's the smoking gun, and the gallows are coming out. Short of that, what are we negotiating for? And with whom? Why?
To be fair to Chris, there is some nuance here. For example, Aaron put the bait in there about Trump talking about warp speed again. I didn't take it this time. Why? Because he's got RFK Jr. doing a lot of things right now that I like, saying a lot of things that I like, and that report's supposed to come out here pretty soon, right? Wasn't September what we were told all year long?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will even grant the nuance of him continuing to throw that out there for his own ego because it's a talking point to deflect, whatever his rationales for it are, because I'm getting the action on other fronts within that same realm that I like. You don't have to agree or disagree, but I'm just pointing out to Chris, I'm willing to see some nuance where what Trump says matters or doesn't. That's all. But in this case, I'm not even sure what we'd get out of China that would be worth importing 600,000 or 500,000 or 400,000 or 300,000 or 30,000 Chinese communists into the country. I just don't know what that would possibly be. I mean, China is going to say, tell you what, take these 600,000 and we just turn the country over to you guys and become a vassal state of America. I'm listening. I doubt that's the offer, though, right? So what possible thing would they realistically offer that would be worth establishing a beachhead that would amount to the 30th largest city in America of imported Chinese communists? I have no idea what that would be. I'd love to know, and I've got to believe if it was something worthy, they would have come up with a talking point better than, well, we've got to keep the bottom 15% of American universities from going under. Because that thing went over like a fart in church. That talking point was so bad, a lot of the MAGA base was, let's just go back to being disappointed on Epstein. That's how bad that was. All right? I have because something tells me if that's the talking point they have, it ain't much of a negotiation. I could be wrong, though. I'd love to be proven wrong.
Next up, we go to Uncontexted, who has top 10 names for Steve Deace Show fans. Number 10, Deace Heads.
Sell. There's already Pat Heads.
Number 9, the Nefarious Army.
I kind of like that. I'll buy.
Number 8, the Snark Tank.
I really like that. What do you think of Snark Tank?
It's good.
I like it, yeah.
Number 7, the Stevengers.
Nah, way too vain. Sell.
Number 6, Crocolos.
No,
I'm not going to impose, my fetish on others. Okay, I'll sell.
Number 5, Snarklings.
That I kind of like.
I do like that one.
I do like that one. I'll buy, yeah.
Number 4, Deace Nuts.
We can stop right now. That's my favorite, yes.
Disciples.
No, that's kind of borderline sacrilege. No.
2, Steve Angelicals.
No, also borderline sacrilege. No.
And number 1, Douchebags.
I'm fine with that too.
That landed.
All right, I think the last one I'm totally fine with. Yeah, I think we're probably at D's Nuts or Douchebags would probably be my 2 favorites, but I could be talked into the Snarklings. Yes.
Let's go to this. Perpendicular Pictures of Pittsburgh has this. Angel Studios going public will eventually push them into Disney territory unless they only offer enough stock to keep them owning 67% of the company. That is news in recent days. I thought I saw.
I had not even heard that
taking
news.
steps to go public.
I had not heard that news.
So that's the headline anyway.
Interesting.
I'm going to buy and just bulletin board material to make sure that Angel Studios is staring at that and making sure it never comes true. But this is the trend. Steve just got done talking about it for all the same reasons as he just applied it to Chip and Joanna Gaines and whoever else. This is the trend.
You know what? For that reasoning, I will buy too. Just to, as you said, put up the bulletin board material. Don't play yourself.
Prove us wrong.
Yep. Because they've done a lot of great work. So for that reason alone, I like your rationale. I'll buy. I'm just going to echo what he said.
Next, we go to Colton, who says Todd is more repulsed by Sports Pro than a male Swiftie that spent his day scrolling engagement pics.
I'm pretty confident that if you wanted to run that by Todd, he would be at least as disgusted by that phenomenon. Fair?
I'm selling.
Oh, okay.
Not more, not less. They're the exact same person.
So we agree.
It's the exact same issue.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident if you presented this to Todd, you'd get the lightsaber fight treatment.
There are sports pros today posting the engagement pic of them kissing, but saying that's how they feel about college football. I'm not making this up.
Gay! That's very gay.
Everything I've told you about sports
gay.
pro is absolutely true. There's nothing about football that makes you smarter or more ethical. Nothing.
It's very gay. That's very gay. I agree.
Next, we go to Bean, Andrew Stone, who says if Steve doesn't carry pumpkin spice up his sleeve like Buddy the Elf, he's not a real gangster.
I like it. Just remember, real gangsters move in silence, brother. I'll buy. Yes. Back during this last break, went and grabbed a couple of pumpkin spice seasonal Werther's original caramels just to get a little shot in the arm during the last break. So, respect.
You've heard of pill pushers. Steve is a pumpkin pusher.
I came back from Iowa's legendary Amana colonies. What did I bring you, Aaron?
You got me some pumpkin pie coffee.
Freshly grounded, though.
Yes.
Freshly grounded, yes. Let me know how it tastes.
When we moved into the new break room, you don't even drink coffee.
Right.
You got this massive jug of pumpkin spice syrup.
Yep.
Coffee syrup.
I just grab like a spoonful of it a day. It's so good. Yeah. That's living right there, brother. That's living. Yes. Next,
Luke O'Halloran has this. We should have a 5-year moratorium on all legal immigration. We should also revoke visas, green cards, etc. of all those that are currently legal as a preemptive measure to keep them from disappearing into the system. We should also get rid of anyone who doesn't speak English, no matter your legal status. P.S. I'm becoming more and more radicalized on this issue. Boy, howdy is he. I think he submitted 4 or 5 different submissions similar to this one this week.
The last one is the one I have the most struggle with, just because it's not an easy language to learn. We use vowels a lot more than a lot of other languages do. You may have people that we have taken in for legitimate status as refugees, like a German homeschool family who's being persecuted by their government and they don't know a lick of English yet. I'm
selling.
You're going to sell. I'll let you go first. Go ahead.
I'm selling because of 2 stories that you've already diagnosed today. I'm sympathetic, but Chip and Joanna Gaines and the Woodbury voters are every bit the problem as this is, if not more. We cannot displace our notions of who is to blame. They're already doing a lot of evaluating all of the student visas and things like that. I know one of my daughter's, a couple of players on her soccer team are experience things like this. So this is ongoing at a degree that hasn't been done in quite some time. But there is a segment of people on the right that just refuses to look hard around all of the corners. Just today's show alone means even if you do everything there, we're still cooked. And we have to acknowledge that.
I like that answer. I think this is debatable of enough question. I will buy just to give the other side, which is make a compelling argument in the affirmative. Todd just gave you a negative argument. Make a compelling argument in the affirmative for why this proposition is wrong. And I think that that's getting increasingly more difficult to do. And the fact that this is actually something that is entertainable is indicative of just how far gone the system ultimately is. I mean, immigration without assimilation is invasion, folks. That's what it is.
Yes.
Immigration without assimilation is an invasion. That's what it is.
And while this is happening, you're absolutely right. But while this is happening, Chip and Joanna Gaines are having gay roller derby shows. And oh, by the way, just so you know, they're not from the East Coast. They're not from the left coast.
Oh, they're from Waco, Texas.
They're from Waco, Texas.
Yeah.
They're not proud alums of the wokeified, horns down University of Texas. No, they're proud alums of the Christian Baylor University. See, so even if we do all this, folks, look the round eyes. Now, people are going to scoff at that and say, well, everybody knows Baylor's been Christian in name only for many years, to which, though, you're actually making more of Todd's point, which is, well, then why was that permitted to go on? Why was that permitted to go on, that they were just big Christian in name only then? Why was that okay? Why did we just, well, I guess, okay, we just accept that, I guess. Why? Why would we do such a thing? Right? That's how you'd respond to that. Yes. I hear you.
Somebody accused us of not being live on the air because I posted something during this segment. Nope, just as proof, you know who you are. We are live on the air right now. I don't know how we would talk about breaking news not being live, but Zachary says the future will be Muslims, Mormons, and traditional Catholics because they're the ones having 5+ kids. And McIntyres, I mean, we're repopulating.
I'll sell. Those three couldn't share a society if they wanted to. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Demographics are destiny to a point. Well, no. Demographics are not destiny. Worldview is destiny. All right? In fact, I used to hear demographics are destiny all the time when I was an MSNBC contributor. That was always their argument in the Obama years. Demographics are destiny. No, worldview is destiny.
Well, that's the point of this submission.
But those three worldviews could not possibly share a culture. It couldn't happen.
I'll sell. I mean, has the Protestant birth rate implied in that? Has it plummeted that far behind? At least the American Protestant?
It's not great. It's not plummeted to the level systemically of the culture, but it's not great outside of a few enclaves.
Well, I really wanted to be fair. I absolutely didn't want to turn that into a Catholic versus Protestant thing. But please, for the love of God, along with all other things Christian that we have to name up our game in, have a bunch of kids.
But I mean, if the Muslims are never sharing a culture like that, never happening.
In general, though, globally, I would buy this. Now, in terms of one culture, correct. Those things can't coexist. But I think the point of this post is that the worldview that compels you to have most children will be the future. You would buy that in general terms.
In general, yes. Yeah.
Next, we go to E. Nikolic, who says, faith with works is doing penance. Faith without works, doing a pence.
I'm not sure. Let's pray none of my friends that went to John MacArthur's funeral are listening to this, okay? I'm not sure how theologically sound this is, but from a cultural analysis, this is so spot on. I'm going to buy. And then if it's heterodoxy later, I'll repent. All right? But this is, in terms of cultural analysis, this is fairly brilliant. At least it approaches brilliance. It's so profound. So I will buy, and then come at me later if it's a violation of, it's some kind of heterodoxy of justification by faith, because I understand the broader cultural point that this person is trying to make. And I think it is profound, so I'll buy.
Well, I don't know how much this cues up with the end of our Romans 9 discussion. And it was, we all agreed we could have gone on and on, but listen, faith with works is just a summation of what are the two greatest commandments. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Works are for you, but they are for you through others. Love, that's what the works are. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's exactly what it is. And it merits you through them. Just as Christ's death on the cross was all of that level of sacrifice to the point of death, the finished work, defining love once and for all. So is that, there's so much more there in terms of unpacking the words that we need to take time on, but is penance. I'd have to talk with this person ultimately on if this is just for me, about for the entire world.
See, I took it as a desire to make a difference in light of what was done for me, rather than accept passive aggressiveness as a theology in light of the gravest evils of the era. That's kind of how I took it to mean. And that's why I answered the way that I did. So what I think is funny, it's just so you cannot predict how this show is going to go with us, man. All right. Is the Catholic who has argued for a year and a half on this show, you can lose your salvation. He actually wanted to know the broader theological understanding of what this meant. And I was actually, as the evangelical who believes otherwise, was actually willing to just accept it as an as-is cultural statement. You just never know how these things are going to go, man. It's like a box of chocolates. Cracks me up. Funny.
Next, we go to Trevor, who says, my local Walmart has Halloween candy displays out already. Buy, sell, or hold. This is getting ridiculous how soon they're doing this so far out from the holiday. You know, I had this conversation the other day, and then I realized it's less than a month and a half away.
Yeah, it's not as far out as you think.
Or 2 months away. Sorry, 2 months away.
You know what? I'll buy on the grounds that in no way, shape, or form Halloween should not be treated as a season the way Christmas is. It shouldn't be elevated to that level.
And it is by some people.
And it is by some people. So on those grounds, as opposed to the fun thing where you take the kids out trick-or-treating every night and you love that, the weather, that time of year and everything else. But if we're now going to start having to get an early start on this, like it's Christmas when it's not, then in that case, because of the broader statement it makes, I'll buy this. More so than a particular timetable.
All I heard there is that Steve is willing to consider, at the very least, rolling back the start of Christmas to November 15th instead of November 1st. That's what I heard, at the very least.
You know what? As long as your terms are not 600,000 Chinese spies, I might consider it. Yes. All right. Okay.
That is perfect. Okay. I needed that. I needed that.
I think America might have needed it, frankly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Next, John, who says, no one has ever seen Corey Mills eat bacon or sausage in the last 20 years.
Dude, come on, man. That is brutal. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. That is so brutal. That is one of the most subtle, brutal submissions we have ever had on this show. How long have we been doing this? I mean, that is chef's kiss level brutality.
Cash money, yep.
Yeah, I got to buy that. Just on brutal. I have no idea if it's accurate or not. Just the sheer brutality of it calls for a buy, I believe.
That's what's his face running and doing a fries run for Donald Trump levels. Chris Christie. Yeah, that's. You got to believe it's true.
By the way, this week's guest in the Deace group, none other than Jill Savage. So I'm sure she'd buy that for sure. Yes.
Next is Anna D. Allen. The real reason for the Cracker Barrel changes is to bankrupt the company and sell off their real estate. I got several submissions kind of in the same vein.
Well, I think there's enough there that I'll buy. It's not the only thing, but these people are there's always iconoclasm going on. Just smash and grab everything. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you call them stained glass window smashers, right? Yeah. That's a good description for the fancy term of what iconoclasts are. Okay, so I don't, I think there could be legions, literally, of motivations, and this could be among them. So I'll buy. Sure, that's a lot of brick and mortar. You bet. It's a lot of ways to get liquid, for sure.
Micah says, football is a unique and essential element of American culture that should be protected and celebrated and consumed in moderation.
I mean, I completely agree with this. And here's the thing. I think Todd actually agrees with this. And his complaint is that the latter is not happening. And it's completely out of balance. So, but I can't remember if it was MacArthur, Eisenhower. One of the great generals of World War II said that the secret weapon that we had in training up a generation of young men to win a dual theater war was what football taught in terms of brutality, camaraderie, teamwork, physical aggression, things of that nature, and the service academies embracing it and bringing that in as part of the subcultures of each institution. So I don't disagree with that one iota at all. The question probably then becomes what's moderation and what is not, and that becomes very subjective. But here's a general rule: if you're not doing the things in life that are supposed to be the most important, then you're out of because of football. You're out of moderation.
There.
Now that's a different answer for different people. I don't know everybody's particular life circumstances, but that's the general rule.
I do agree. But there's one definite way about moderation, and it's the emotional bandwidth you give it. It's not just a time factor. To be honest with yourself, and this is how we know what idols are. How much does this control you as a grown man emotionally? And compare it to everything else. Love for your wife, love for your children, civic participation, saying the Pledge of Allegiance. We know damn well there's a bunch of grown men that there is way up here for football, and if their team loses, and then space bar, and everything else. And their kids are watching, and they're seeing it. And that's what they're learning about life.
Completely agree. Daniel Horowitz will join us next. Stay tuned. In a world that's gone fully digital, there's just still something uniquely revolutionary and American about holding that reading material, that hard copy of it in your hands. Well, tradition's not dead here at The Blaze. So if you want to go deeper with us, we've got Frontier Magazine to offer you as a quarterly submission in our latest subscription tier that gives you more VIP access, more VIP treatment, more members-only content, more access to exclusive events. It's called Blaze Unlimited, and it includes your subscription to Frontier Magazine, our quarterly journal as well. You can get $40 off if you're one of the first 50 people to use this code today, Blaze50. Blaze50, if you're one of the first 50 people to use this code today, get $40 off, all right? And you become now unlimited in your access to the Blaze. Take advantage of this. Go to blazeunlimited.com/Deace. That's blazeunlimited.com/Deace. Use the promo code Blaze50 to get that big discount. That's Blaze50 if you're one of the first 50 to use that code today at blazeunlimited.com/Deace. We welcome in our good friend, the prophet of woe and lamentation himself, Daniel Horowitz. It's good to see you, brother. And the news details now of this shooting at the Catholic school is now in Minneapolis is being confirmed. And I just said to our audience, at this point, we should just automatically assume these are demonically oppressed or possessed trannies until proven otherwise. It's become a systemic problem. I think it is very clear, this just as a phenomenon, the amount of lunacy, what this does to the human person at a fundamental level in terms of basic identity, we just can't allow this on any level. I don't care if you're 8, I don't care if you're 88. We just can't have any element of this in our society. There are some things human beings were just frankly not meant to tamper with. And there's just something uniquely intrinsic to the evil associated with this that this just has to be just completely just done away with. This is the island of Dr. Moreau. We're beyond even the child mutilation arguments and everything else. It's just got to be a flat no, absolute zero. You can't do this in our country. I don't care how old you are, what your excuse is, any more than you're permitted to walk into a mall and just light yourself on fire, for a religious rite. You can't do this either. So the answer is no.
I mean, I've been meaning to say this forever, and I'm glad you brought up the adult castration issue. It's kind of like the female sports thing. Everyone's like, oh, the female sports issue. No, the demonic transhumanism, transgender issue, that's one of many consequences of it. And it's the same thing here. It's not just a matter of children. When you're at a hospital, okay, I mean, you know this, Steve, they regulate every aspect of healthcare, the procedures of what you can and can't do. I mean, you can't just cut someone's hand off when it's not medically indicated, gangrene or, blown off or something in war. So you certainly can't, cut someone's plumbing off or, chemically induce that as well. And of course it should be banned. I mean, it's criminal to engage in mutilation or, medical negligence across the board. The reality is we talk about high capacity magazines, right? So inanimate objects don't do anything, and you need a human input. Plus, Second Amendment is, it's a fundamental right. It's protected by the Constitution. Yet we've had all these laws for so many years in response to things like Parkland, which is why even in Florida to this day, the legislature won't repeal some of those laws. Yet when it comes to humans that are now so predisposed to violence from engaging in high capacity violent procedures that are barbaric and should be illegal to begin with, somehow we never do what the left does. In response, kind of what they did ever since Columbine. This is what we should be doing because the science is there. And unlike Second Amendment, castration's not a protected speech or activity. So, I hated the fact that the Republicans in the RNC platform last convention made it about children. It's not that maybe that's a consent issue, but to your point, this is a much broader problem. When you look at not just the school shootings, but these Antifa splinter groups that are now attacking ICE everywhere. I mean, 50% of them are tranny. You had this plot outside of our, close to our flagship in Dallas, where they were going to gun down a bunch of ICE agents and actually did shoot one police officer in the neck. Luckily, they weren't a good shot. This was a terrible plot that really hasn't been talked about enough. The lead actor in that plot, among many of the other dozen or so, were also trannies. So this is a ubiquitous problem. And to me, this needs to be a top issue in every legislature. Just ban castrating someone the way you would any malevolent procedure.
Did you see the Natalie Winters? She's Steve Bannon's top reporter, as you well know. Did you see the post from her going around, making the rounds? It went viral yesterday. Did you see this?
No.
So Natalie was talking about how many of the young women that she knows were so excited to take jobs in the administration and with organizations and come to work in D.C. after we won the last election, because they also not just wanted to be MAGA and make a difference, but they thought that's got to be the best pool of young men to potentially find a husband you could look for anywhere in America. Other enterprising young men who also have values we share in common, right? I mean, that's not just a mission field, it's a dating pool. Then she noticed, and many of her girlfriends noticed, when they got here, almost all the guys working here were gay. The level of infiltration of this, while at the same time, particularly among Republicans, because, I mean, Rick Grinnell may not like it if we link tranny madness with homosexuality. Unfortunately, for every Rick Grinnell who thinks otherwise, this is a mainstream talking point to the rainbow jihad. Outside of a sliver of this within our own team, everywhere else, these things are linked together as one unilateral agenda that we have to accept. We're not permitted to say They could offer this to us, but they won't. They could say, listen, someone's private sexual behavior, your religion may teach it sin, but as long as they don't want to use the public institutions to impose their values and make you change yours, you should grant them an accommodation. We could have that argument, except they won't let us have that argument. They tell us that we then have to accept someone's pronouns and have our entire way of life altered and taken away from us if we won't. Right. So since they give us a lump sum offer, Daniel, they do not let us choose a la carte off the menu, but we have to take the entire, family style portions that are offered on that said menu. I'm not going to grant an accommodation for one that's not even being offered me. Are we good so far? All right. And so since this is one agenda, what I find fascinating is how much of the country is rebelling against this, even our own side. We are nearly down to pre Obergefell levels of approval for gay marriage among Republicans because of the blowback to all of these excesses that people like us warned about 15 years ago are now everywhere we live. I am fascinated to see how this is going to play out, given how deeply embedded these behaviors are within our own team at the exact same time as our base rebels against it like it's 20 years ago. Yet the people running much of our party on a granular level are very invested in this at the same time. That's going to be a fascinating political dynamic moving forward.
Yes, Steve, that is an interesting observation. I was entreated to it maybe last decade. I was floored because, you know me, I would go places and kind of speak my mind because I thought we were all like-minded. And people had to educate me, Daniel, you don't understand. There's a lot of that going on here. It's like, oh, I thought I was part of the team that was for biblical values. I didn't realize that, but it is pretty rampant. And just so we know, this whole business that there's somehow some sort of like genetic thing, like you're born right-handed, left-handed, blue-eyed, brown-eyed. You see the sexual deviancy. When you're into deviancy, you're into deviancy. So that's why on Capitol Hill at a member level, at a staffer level, they'll do both. A lot of the ones doing the groping, they'll do male, female, all sorts of things. Frankly, I've always suspected it was more evident among Republicans than Democrats. They're kind of gayer than Democrats. Say what you want about them. They fight for their prerogatives. So I think that is a problem. And I think we have to be careful that our energy and momentum is not jujitsued into oblivion, that it's not limited and blunted to just protecting female sports or just, child castration. It's got to be much broader than that. What we are seeing now are all the analogs, all the bastard children of Obergefell, of gay marriage. Mm-hmm. At first, they try to convince me, you just hand them a certificate. But when you normalize a deviancy, it doesn't mean people don't privately struggle with that, and that's fine. People should privately struggle with a lot of things. But when you have within the party, Steve, why do we need to know that all these people are so-called gay? Do we know that they like, white chocolate over black chocolate, cherries over blueberries? Why do we need to know that? Why do we know that? Mm-hmm. That in itself should bother you, because that's not just, look, I'm doing my thing. Clearly, there is a normalization that they're working on and have already achieved on the right, and that is not okay. It sort of reminds me, by the way, parallel to this is the whole drug thing. For years, people said the war on drugs didn't work. All right, that's fair. And then we saw when the legalization happened around 10 to 12 years ago, there's that degree of crisis. When you have open permissiveness of certain things, it's very different than when it's not. You never fully stamp out an ill, a deviancy, a problem. People have struggles, and that's fine. But you don't embrace and promote it as a movement, as a people, as a society. And when you gaslight people that a marriage is not a marriage, well, then the next thing is a man's not a man, a woman's not a woman. That's not even a half a step away from it. So I think we're now at a critical point in history where our people, and even a lot of independent voters, are starting to realize, whoa, this is much bigger. We need to take it to the next level. No castration for adults. In Florida, they're now painting over all the paraphernalia and banning it in any locality. We should not accept in Texas that Dallas and Houston are gay cities. We should not accept that Austin is a sanctuary for this deviancy. Now, none of this means that in the privacy of your home, you can't do what you want. You were always able to do what you want.
Right. Before Obergefell, how many homosexuals were in prison because they went to a Unitarian, Methodist, other heretical church, or some mainline Jewish synagogue who wouldn't know a Torah if it dropped on their face? Okay, how many homosexuals were in jail because they went to what you and I would describe as a fake church and got quote unquote married by heretics? How many were in jail? Do you know the answer? As
Scalia said in the 1996 Colorado case, the first one, he was like, already back then, it was a protected class.
Yeah. So the only point of doing this is normalization, and it was to infiltrate the institutions with it and deconstruct what the moral ethos that already was pre-existent. That was the only reason, because practically they already had many of the arrangements they already wanted. What they didn't have was normalization and glorification, and that's really what this was about all along. And now people are seeing all the various excesses that people like us warned about are now where we are. There's a reason why they said no slippery slope arguments, because slippery slope arguments are undefeated for all time. There's never been a slippery slope argument that didn't eventually win, because that's just human nature when it's unrestrained. And so here we are.
No, absolutely. And again, the worst form of normalization is when you normalize it on the right, thereby silencing your ability to ever fight it. You know, I always tell people there are times in political combat you might take a strategic retreat, focus on issue A rather than B, but never give up on it, because the other side will always overreach. And as long as you continue to hold that view and you trust in God, God will present you with that opportunity to come back around, probably in your lifetime, maybe not even that long away, to fight it and defeat it. But the problem is we throw everything overboard. And now we turned Obamacare into a losing issue. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, we just give up on everything. And no, I mean, we should not give up on the proposition of repealing Obergefell, but also obviously fighting it in the States. People were always free to do what they wanted. And you're asking the state to redefine something, to point to two men and saying they are married is the same thing as pointing to that alleged shooter in Minnesota and saying it's a Robin, it's a female. It's this same thing, and we have to make sure that that is the baseline for anyone running under our banner.
Well, my original intent before this tragedy this morning was to see if you could possibly, and I think the answer was likely going to be yes, you could possibly be angrier about the idea that we have to somehow import what amounts to the 30th largest city in America of Chinese communists as some negotiating tactic. But alas, we are out of time. So your audience on your podcast will uniquely be gifted with that level of spite, my friends. So thank you very much. All right, take care.
It can always get worse.
That's your mantra. I know. And we dig that about you. Thank you, Daniel. All right, gentlemen, what are your thoughts? So we got about a minute and a half.
Everything about this day is summed up with Daniel explaining about going places, speaking his mind, and being pulled aside and given warnings. And Daniel's like, oh, my bad. I thought I was here amongst the Christian conservatives. Mic drop. That's every issue, almost. Fake and gay.
I've been very happy with a lot of the things, the vast majority of the things that we've seen from this Trump administration.
I'm still,
no matter if it's Donald Trump or Harold, Klump or J.D. Vance or fill in the blank president, right-wing president, I'm going to be discontent until we know the details of what changed. This is always my go-to. Hey, what would you like to know the details to? Until we know some of the details of what changed from Anthony Fauci's outlook from late February to early March in 2020. I'm going to be discontent until we know more details about that than we do about the generic right-wing dating scene in Washington, D.C. Because I think it's safe to say we know way more about that than we would like to. Yet at the same time, as Daniel Horowitz said, not surprising in the least, especially when you see the way they fight most of the time when their standard bearer is not Donald Trump.
The bottom line here is this produces a level of lunacy that no human culture is able to sustain and still consider itself to be civilized in any way, shape, or form. Period. End of sentence.
So deal
It's just not a sustainable construct in any kind of civilized culture. It just can't happen. We can't handle it. And we keep getting tragic evidence of this all of the time. It's time to listen to it. For once, I agree. Thoughts and prayers are not enough. Romans 8:28.